Hi, my name is Nicole Salas, the creator of Design Her Life, and I'm sitting here with some fabulous women that I have to introduce you to. This is Zena, Sophia, and Tokozani, some of our New York authors for our new book that we're so excited about, Passion, Prayer, Purpose, a collection of stories to help any woman design her life. We decided to get together today to do Women's Wednesdays. We have some fabulous topics. Let's get to it. Yeah. Got a hot topic. We are talking about submission. The question that was submitted to us is, can you be a feminist and be submissive? So, since we don't want to make the assumption that everyone has the same definition, then we are going to define these very subjective terms, right? So, Sophia has pulled up submission.
Submissive.
This
is submissive, ready to conform to the authority or will of others, meekly obedient or passive.
Okay. And feminism is a range of political movements, ideologies, and social movements that share in the common goal to define, establish, and achieve political, economical, personal, and social rights for women that are equal to men. Mm-hmm. So the definition of feminism is just that women are treated equal to men. Mm-hmm. So what do we think about this, ladies?
Interesting. I think yes, it is possible to be submissive and be a feminist at the same time. Using those two definitions, I think what it comes down to for me personally is just an understanding of roles. Now, this is how I define submission, is how I understand submission. I barely use that word, but I mean, to me, when you look at male and female relationships, it's about roles, and it's about knowing or agreeing on what the terms of a relationship are. And this can go all across the board in a relationship to, whether it's a male and female boss and employee relationship, whether it's a friendship, whatever it is. I think in every relationship there are certain roles, and those roles are determined by the two people in the relationship. And if you move in those roles, then you can come to an agreed term where you can submit to each other.
Yeah, I believe the same thing. I think that, especially as Christians, we've been ordered or commanded or encouraged strongly to submit to one another. Mm-hmm. And that means men have to submit to other men. Men have to submit to women. Women submit to women. Women submit to men. It's like there is no, like you say, one-sidedness of it all. And what's interesting is a lot of people will say they can, and then it's like, well, can you sit under a female pastor? Some men and some women are like, I don't know about that. Even me, for a moment, I was like, my sister and I had this huge debate. I'm like, I don't know if I could, and I had to figure out why I felt the way I felt. I'm telling you, society and culture. Because I was under the ideology that men are the ones who lead, and they have been called to lead, and it's such a lie that I have been taught, because women are also called to lead. Mm-hmm. And it's this idea of power and authority and how we look at it in society and how it's actually given to us in the Word of God and how we interpret it. It's not always consistent.
So do you think that like the social constructs of like male roles and women roles has misinterpreted the way we look at the Bible?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of stuff was written based off of the culture that they were living in at that time. You know what I mean? So even the men who were writing it, I mean, they had their own ideas of what it should be, how it should be set up. So, I mean, that's another conversation, but like the whole point is, if we're supposed to submit to each other, then you absolutely, I don't even think you can be a Christian and not be a feminist, quote unquote, because you have to believe in equality.
Well, I think it's really, really interesting that you brought that up. I do. Because most times you don't hear a lot of pastors preaching submission. When you think about submission, me personally, my own experience, I wrote about this in my chapter in the book, and I just talked about how I had this experience, and I really struggle with showing up in the world as powerfully as I feel like God created me as a leader, and being submissive in the way that I was being taught at that particular church. And that pastor, I would say that the two beliefs that I was struggling with was a belief that, when I was younger, I had a gentleman tell me that a man, you never gonna have no man, because nobody wants, you're too strong. You're too strong, you have too strong of a personality.
He wouldn't talk.
Well, unfortunately, I kept that. I kept that, and I integrated that unknowingly into my belief system. And thinking, and when I got to this church, and this pastor said, feminism, and this is a very, very, very prominent, popular pastor that was like, feminism is the devil. And when I got to that point, I was really, really struggling with that. Am I going to have to start playing small in my life so that I can get married? Because I'm 30, my biological clock is ticking. I want to start this business. I want to do all of these amazing things that God called me to do. But am I going to have to pick one or the other? I know that none of us are married at this point. Do we feel like that's still a struggle? Do we feel like that's still really, really being the pressure of this social, what a woman is supposed to be doing, and the time she's supposed to be spending at home, and the time she's supposed to be doing this, and then you actually being able to run your business, or all of those things? Do you think that that's a conflict?
It's interesting. So my sister, she's married to a boss, and basically he's doing very well at his job, and he was doing so well that when they first got married, he said, "You know what? Just sit down and figure out your life." I was like, "What? How do you do that?" I said, "Just take a year to figure it out. What you want to do with your life, boo," and blah blah blah. And she was able to sit down and say for a year, just what am I gonna do? And she was working and she's doing great. But what I love is his dream is to be a house husband. He wants to sit at home with the kids, and he teases us all the time, and he's serious, but he's like, "No, I'm really waiting for her to blow up so I can sit at home with the kids." He loves to cook. He's like, "I can sit at home and cook. I'll have the dinner ready for you when you come home. Let's go." And I'm like, wow, now that's what I'm talking about. And I feel like if men would allow women to walk into their calling, the pressure would really be off of you to be so perfect. It doesn't even make sense that you got to be so perfect all the time. It's like, if we're both leading this thing together, can't nobody really take the blame for this. We mutually came to agreements. You know what I mean? It's not like, to me, that would be great. You don't have to have all the pressure on you all the time.
And that takes a level of maturity also.
Oh, God.
It takes a level of maturity, because in pride, like, sometimes people don't know how to put their pride aside in a relationship. And it's like, it's okay to go to your woman and say, "Hey, I don't know this," or "Can you do that?" Like you said, you don't have to be perfect. Men don't have to be perfect, but they have to get to that point where they feel like, I'm mature enough to say that I'm not perfect. I'm mature enough to say that I'm not this macho man. I want to be the stay-at-home dad. I want to take care of the kids. I want to be the nanny or whatever. So I just think that be a little, mature.
Yeah, and I think, like, just from conversations that I've had with a lot of women, girl talk and stuff like that, I think the fear is always that if a woman is what she defines as her strongest self, and does all of these things, and certain traditional female roles are not kept, then a man will feel like that woman is not acting in her role. So usually the pressure on the female is, well, if I try and do it all, and these traditional female roles, I don't make all the meals, maybe the house is not as clean as it's supposed to be, he's not there all the time, then would that make him look at me like I'm slacking? But we live in a different society. Like you said, the rules were set a long time ago. These roles, were set a long time ago. These days, dual income households is almost like a necessity, because you can't rely on just the man's bread now. You have to do both. Or women can explore their gifts and do all of that and get the strength that they need. So I think...
So is it an unrealistic expectation?
I don't think it's an unrealistic expectation. I think it just takes a lot of checking of egos and maturity and being able to come to an agreement in terms of women not doing traditional female roles, and also women being able to accept that a man is not going to do all the manly roles that you think a man should do. I think it's a two-way street.
Feminism, what feminism is about pushing women out of the box that male dominance has put us in. The problem is men are not allowed to be pushed out of the box that male dominance has put them in.
Oh,
so it's like literally they can't cook because that's not male dominance. They can't take care of the kids. That's not male dominance. You know what I'm saying? So the reason why it's off balance exactly is because we're being more effective with try it with me. I can run this company. I don't have to stay at home. And that's why they're lost. They're like, well, then what does that leave me? If you're doing all of my jobs, well, you can take some of mine, but I'm not supposed to do that. Yes, you can.
So let me ask you ladies this. Do you guys think in 2016, the traditional gender roles that we grew up seeing or hearing about still work? Do you think that traditional setting still has a valid way to exist in this day and age?
That is a beautiful question.
Yeah, right, girl. What you think?
What do you think?
I think they absolutely do.
I don't
think they're for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's the problem when you say this is the way it's supposed to be and this is how you were created and this is your only job because you're a woman.
Problem.
That doesn't make sense.
True. But I think there is a strength. Like, I mean, for me personally, I've seen. Like, I grew up in a household where mainly the traditional roles were kept, you know? Male provider, female caretaker. It worked. And it wasn't that the female wasn't providing. It's just primarily, you know, my father was a provider and my mother did the home stuff. But to me, I think it worked great. You know, if I can duplicate that to an extent, I would love to do that. But would I do it necessarily that exact way? No, because I want to do other things too that she didn't do or she wasn't able to do for whatever reason. You know, so I think there's a value in it. We're not taking away from it in all that we are saying. I think, you know, there's a lot of stay-at-home moms who that setting is really helping their families, and there's a lot of stay-at-home dads, like you said too. So I think, yeah, it's possible. I like it. I mean, I'll adapt it to that extent.
I mean, I think I grew up in a really traditional. I wash the dishes, Marcus mowed the grass.
Yeah.
So I grew up in that too, and I think that it worked.
Yeah.
And like you said, I think that you have to take those values and you have to incorporate into your experience and your truth what's going to work for you. You know what I mean? And that's based on an individual vision that God gives you for your life. You know what I mean? And it can't be duplicated and it can't be put into a box and manufactured, mass produced and manufactured for every relationship and every marriage. And I think the judgment around that has to stop. It's just out of control.
True.
Right.
All right.
Good stuff. Oh
my
goodness. It was long.
You guys tell us what you think. Tell us, engage with us. Does a traditional setting work for you currently?
Leave a comment.
We're watching, what are you doing? Yeah, what kind of male-female relationships? Are you a feminist? Why? And are you submissive? Why? Okay.
Not like that.
See you next time.
Bye.